At Thanksgiving dinner, my sister stood up, declared the family had voted me out, and everyone applauded, including my own mother. But when I calmly slid a folder of receipts and secrets onto the table, the celebration turned into screams, shattered faces, and the complete collapse of their little performance. Thanksgiving dinner unfolded. My sister rose to speak, announcing, "We held a vote, and you are no longer part of this family." A wave of applause swept through the room. I offered a quiet chuckle and remarked, "In that case, I imagine this won't be necessary." I then set a document file onto the table. The instant she opened it, a piercing shriek erupted from her. Just before we began carving the turkey, Natalie stood from her seat, a practiced, self-satisfied grin plastered across her face. "There's something we must disclose," she stated. A sudden hush fell over everyone. Forks paused midair. My stomach twisted. I recognized that inflection. It was the identical tone she used to get me grounded at 14 for a gathering I hadn't even attended. "We conducted a family ballot," she continued, surveying the room as if a queen anticipating her coronation. "And we've decided, you're no longer family." Silence descended, then a burst of celebratory shouts.
Cheers.
My cousin Laura applauded enthusiastically, as if at a concert. Uncle Mitch lifted his wine glass, proposing a toast. Even my mother, my own mother, chuckled and declared, "Well, someone had to voice it." I remained motionless, my gaze fixed on my plate. The stuffing had cooled, but a scorching fury coursed through my veins. My father avoided eye contact, simply taking a sip of his beer and murmuring, "It's likely for the best." "Remarkable," I said, slowly pushing my chair back. "You actually rehearsed this performance." Natalie's grin widened. "You've been a detrimental influence for years. We're simply through with the pretense." "You're not family," my mother added, reaching for the cranberry sauce, as if discussing mundane weather. It was unanimous. I surveyed the faces around me. No one uttered a word, not a single individual. "Excellent," I stated softly. Then I reached into my bag. "I had a feeling this might transpire," I added, withdrawing a substantial folder and carefully placing it in the table center. The distinct sound it made, a dull thud, sliced through the receding laughter. Natalie blinked. "What is that?" I smiled, settling back into my chair and crossing my arms. "Why don't you discover for yourself?" She snatched it up and tore it open. Her lips were already contorted in that familiar, condescending smirk she always adopted when confident of victory. Then she turned the initial page, and her smile vanished. Her complexion blanched. Her eyes darted across the next page, then the one after. Then she screamed, a truly blood-curdling, horror movie kind of shriek. Her chair toppled behind her as she sprang upright, slamming the folder shut as if it had seared her hands. "You fiend," she wailed. "You messed up, twisted eccentric." Gasps reverberated throughout the table. Joel, her husband, seized the folder and opened it. His jaw slackened. He glanced at me. "Is this?" I gave a single nod. "It's all factual," I confirmed. Every utterance, every financial record, every digital capture. The table became utterly silent. A faint clink of a fork could be heard from the kitchen. My mother's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. "You were so certain I wouldn't retaliate," I said, slowly rising. "So convinced I'd remain the silent one, the subservient one, the financial resource. But consider this." I leaned in, meeting Natalie's gaze directly. "Your little spectacle, it's concluded. Curious about the contents of that folder? I will reveal them. But first, allow me to explain how we arrived at this point." Natalie didn't awaken one morning and unilaterally decide I wasn't family. That judgment was constructed over years. Bit by bit, cutting remark by cutting remark, betrayal after betrayal. I was never their favored child. Not even close. Natalie shone brightest, the golden sibling, excellent grades, a radiant smile, adept at commanding attention. She could utter a blatant falsehood to someone's face and have them express gratitude. I, conversely, was reserved, private. I didn't crave the spotlight, and they resented that. They misinterpreted my quiet nature as a weakness. I moved out at 19, funded my own higher education, held 2 jobs, and never requested assistance. Meanwhile, Natalie dropped out of 2 degree programs, journeyed to Europe for self-discovery, then returned home to marry Joel, essentially a walking LinkedIn profile in a tailored jacket. The wedding? I covered half the expense. My parents claimed inability to pay, yet somehow managed a 2-week cruise immediately afterward. I didn't complain. I never did. Even when they quipped about me being the family's financial manager, I continued to assist, covering Dad's dental procedure, sending funds when Mom mentioned an overdue heating bill. I even contributed to my cousin Laura's tuition when her scholarship application was deferred. Their "thank you," sure, always carried a specific inflection. The one that implied, "Of course you'd help. You have no family of your own." Perhaps that was the breaking point. You see, I am unattached. No children, no partner, no drama. Just myself, my profession, and my dog. In their perception, this meant I had nothing more pressing than to finance their various predicaments. Natalie, in particular, treated me as her personal safety net. When Joel lost his employment, I was her initial call. Just a small advance. When her vehicle broke down, you earn a substantial income. What's $2,000? When her child required therapy and insurance offered no coverage, guess who she contacted? I consistently helped. Every single time. Because I convinced myself it was for family. But assistance transformed into obligation, then into expectation, and finally into an absolute demand. It began subtly, with sarcastic remarks at gatherings. Oh, you brought expensive wine. How lovely to afford such luxuries. Naturally, you're punctual. No children to manage. I wish I could work late every night and avoid my spouse too. Then it escalated to something more cruel. You're so detached. Perhaps that's why you remain alone. You lack understanding of genuine pressure. You don't lead an authentic existence. You're just resentful because nobody relies on you. Except they did rely on me, perpetually, financially, covertly, behind closed doors. Then came the message. Natalie. Hey, could you co-sign for a modest business loan? Joel and I are launching a wellness cafe. My response? No. Natalie. Wow, really? Then came the silence. That occurred 3 months prior. From that moment, I experienced their deliberate coldness. Mom ceased her calls. Dad's replies were monosyllabic. I wasn't invited to the recent family gathering. Natalie blocked me on social media after sharing a story about removing toxic individuals from her life. But I didn't simply brood. Instead, I began compiling evidence, tangible receipts. You see, I meticulously record everything. Bank transfers, emails, text conversations, dates. I'm not naive. Over the past 5 years alone, I had transferred over $78,000 to various family members. $78,000. $8,000 for Joel's rehabilitation. $2,300 for Natalie's urgent dental procedure, which later proved to be elective veneers. $1,500 for my father's back surgery. $12,000 for my mother's credit card debt. $6,000 for Laura's university relocation expenses. $4,500 for a family emergency that materialized into a trip to Cabo. And not once, not a single instance, did any of them propose repayment. They simply accepted, and when I ceased providing, they declared me the problem. Thus, I assembled the folder. Within it, every transfer confirmation, every email and text request for money, screenshots of Natalie disparaging me to her friend, labeling me manipulative because I declined the loan. A chronological record of every significant payment I had made over the last 5 years. And as a crowning touch, copies of Facebook and Instagram posts where they derided me. I possess screenshots of Natalie calling me a cash cow with no backbone in a private comment thread she was unaware I could access. So yes, that is precisely what confronted her when she opened that folder. That is what triggered her scream. Because Natalie wasn't merely exposed, she was systematically dismantled, fact by fact, line by line, page by page. All while the remainder of the family began to grasp the enormity of their actions. My mother appeared on the verge of collapsing. Joel. He fixated on the entry detailing $4,200 to cover Natalie's credit card usage at a Santa Monica hotel with someone named Alyssa and simply uttered, "What is this?" I offered no response. I didn't need to. For the very first time, I wasn't defending myself. I was merely presenting the unvarnished truth. You maintained records, my mother finally managed, her voice trembling. Of everything. I turned to her, perfectly composed. You consistently forgot, so someone had to. Natalie remained standing, still pallid, her hands clenched at her sides. Her eyes darted from Joel, to me, to the folder. This is an invasion, she hissed. You had no justification to. No justification? I interrupted, slowly rising to my feet. You just stood before this entire family and declared me no longer a part of it. You all applauded. And now you're indignant that I arrived prepared? Joel turned another page in the folder. What exactly is this about Santa Monica? He inquired, his tone taut. Natalie's head snapped towards him. Don't begin. Who is Alyssa? He pressed on. Why were you at a hotel for 3 nights using my credit card? Her silence resonated more profoundly than any answer. Hold on, my mother interjected, raising her hands. Can we all just compose ourselves and be sensible? Certainly, I replied. Let's be sensible. Let's discuss the occasion you labeled me a parasite while depositing the check I sent you. She blinked. That's unfair. We were under duress. No, I retorted sharply. You were under duress and I rescued you. Every single time. And the solitary instance I refuse, Suddenly, I'm the adversary. My father, who had been completely silent until now, finally spoke. You're exaggerating the situation. I turned to him, and my voice deepened. You permitted them to inflict this upon me for years. You were aware. You observed it. You heard it. And you allowed it to transpire because it was simpler than confronting them. He offered no denial. Natalie slammed her hand onto the table. You're just embittered because no one requires you anymore. Incorrect, I stated icily. I'm not embittered. I'm finished. She let out a scornful laugh. You're pathetic. Do you comprehend how theatrical this appears? Carrying a folder, printing screenshots. Do you believe this makes you the victim? You're merely demonstrating you're a control enthusiast. And you're merely demonstrating, I countered, that you only cared about me when I was settling your bills. You don't get to portray the martyr, she shouted. You opted to assist. You weren't compelled. And yet, somehow, I said, stepping closer, you anticipated it every single time until it ceased being assistance. It became an obligation. And when I stopped, you cast me out. My voice fractured, not from sorrow, but from indignation. You didn't desire a sibling. You desired a mobile ATM. Joel now stood, clutching the folder. Is this accurate? He asked, looking at Natalie. All of this. Natalie met his gaze, and for the first time, she had no retort. No feigned tears, no evasive tactics, just silence. You deceived me, he accused. About the hotel, about the money, about him. You made it sound as if he were delusional. I had no choice, she exploded. He was alienating everyone against me. I was not, I affirmed. You accomplished that entirely by yourself. The room again fell silent. Then my mother leaned forward, attempting one last time. Her voice softened. Listen, dear. We might have overreacted, but this is still family, and families argue. Let's just put this behind us. I cut her off. You're not understanding me. She blinked. What? I am not requesting peace. I am not seeking forgiveness. I am informing you. I am done. Natalie sneered. Oh, cease the pretense that this is some monumental declaration. You've uttered that before. I locked eyes with her. Not like this. I reached into my coat pocket and retrieved another envelope. What now? My father asked, clearly drained. I slid it across the table. Joel caught it before it could fall. He opened it. He read the initial line. His eyes widened. What is this? He whispered. I answered for him. Power of attorney forms for Mom. Revoked. Medical proxy revoked. Emergency contact removed. I've already signed the documents. I am legally and emotionally no longer accountable for any of you. My mother gasped. You're severing all ties? Completely? Completely, I confirmed. Effective immediately. You're being selfish, she said, tears beginning to well. We made errors, but we are still your family. I turned to her, and my voice lowered again, calm, resolute. No, you're not. I retrieved my coat, gave them one final look, and exited through the door, abandoning them in the midst of Thanksgiving dinner, bewildered and silent, surrounded by cooling food and uncomfortable revelations. I walked out, and I did not look back. Not because it lacked pain. It did. But as I closed the door behind me, stepping off their porch into the crisp night air, I sensed an internal shift. For the first time in years, I could genuinely breathe. I didn't head directly home. I pulled off the main road near the lake I used to visit as a child, the very spot Dad once took me fishing. I sat there in quietude, gazing at the still water, and experienced a sensation I hadn't felt in a long time. Nothing tugging at me, no guilt, no pressure, no one awaiting a payment, a ride, or a favor, just profound tranquility. The following morning, silence. The day after that, still nothing. But on the third day, the communications commenced. First, my mother, a missed call, then another, then a voicemail. Do you truly mean it? We were upset, but we're still your family. I did not reply. Then came messages from Natalie. You don't even grasp the ramifications of your actions. Joel is initiating divorce proceedings. Are you content? Something is profoundly wrong with you. Then my father. You went too far. We all uttered regrettable things, but what you did was catastrophic. Your mother is distraught. Come rectify this. I responded to none of them, and truthfully, I had anticipated feeling regret. I expected to lie awake, questioning if I had overstepped. Instead, I slept more soundly than I had in years. There was no more scrutinizing every message, no more anticipating the next inevitable crisis, no more late-night payment requests, guilt trips disguised as urgent needs. For the first time in a decade, my mind felt clear. I began waking early, jogging, meticulously preparing my coffee. I scheduled appointments I had postponed for years, dentist, doctor, even a therapist. Not because I was broken, but because I was finally afforded the opportunity to care for myself. I revised my emergency contacts, removed my parents, changed my security credentials, froze every shared account they had access to, blocked Natalie on every digital platform. It was no longer about retribution. It was about attaining closure. A week after Thanksgiving, I received a message from Laura, my cousin, who had cheered when they ostracized me. I was unaware you paid for my tuition. I apologize. I simply followed the group. You were always the one who genuinely helped. I did not respond, but I reread it twice. Then another unexpected message arrived, this time from Joel. I've filed the paperwork. Everything in that folder was accurate. She cheated, lied, manipulated. Not just you. Me too. He added. You made the correct choice. I should have left sooner. I hadn't expected that validation, but it resonated deeply. A few days later, I did something I hadn't done in years. I applied for a position in a different city. Not out of flight, but because I was finally liberated. No more, you should remain geographically close. No more, who will look after them if you depart? I started reconnecting with friends I hadn't seen in years, individuals I had distanced myself from because I was perpetually entangled in family matters. And the most astonishing part, some of them had seen my post on Reddit. They reached out simply to say, "We're proud of you." That required courage. No one requested money. No one instilled guilt. No one attempted to manipulate the narrative. Just pure, straightforward, clean support. Someone once inquired, "Do you have any regrets?" I pondered for a moment, then responded, "My only regret is not acting sooner." I believed that was the definitive conclusion. And in a sense, it was. But with individuals like them, nothing ever truly concludes without lingering effects, especially when they begin to experience the repercussions of your absence. The initial weeks after Thanksgiving were profoundly quiet, a beautiful, almost eerie stillness. No calls, no guilt, just serenity, until Christmas. On December 22nd, I received a message from my mother, just an image. It depicted their living room adorned with stockings, a partially decorated tree, and prominently, a large empty space where presents were typically stacked. "It doesn't feel right without you," the caption read. "Ellie keeps asking why Uncle isn't visiting this year." I stared at it for an extended period. No apology, no acceptance of responsibility, just the same manipulative undertone. "Look what you've caused. Look who you're harming." I did not reply. December 23rd, Natalie attempted to call. I let it ring unanswered. Then she sent a message. "I know I made mistakes, but you don't have to punish everyone. Just come by for Ellie. She misses you." 2 minutes later. "Also, Mom and Dad are behind on their mortgage payments. I know you no longer care, but the bank contacted them today. I thought you'd want to know." There it was. The request. Always concealed beneath a veil of guilt. Always cloaked in feigned gentleness, but always culminating in a demand. I blocked the number. December 24th. Another message, this time from Dad. "You've made your point. We understand. But enough is enough. We require assistance. We are still your kin." That night, I sat alone by the fireplace with a glass of wine. I surveyed my modest apartment. No tree, no commotion, just myself and the silence they always claimed would destroy me. And for the first time in my existence, I was profoundly grateful for that quietude. But it did not end there. In January, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. I answered out of habit. "Is this Daniel?" a man's voice inquired. "Yes." "Who is calling?" "My name is Mark," he stated. "I'm contacting you on behalf of your father. He mentioned you are the primary executive of the family trust." I froze. "I revoked that role 2 months ago," I clarified. "It was finalized by the family attorney. My name is off everything." The man paused. "I see. Your father stated he couldn't reach you directly and requested I explore options as they're in a bit of a predicament." Of course, they were. Natalie and my parents had exhausted their avenues. The ATM was offline. The safety net was gone. Now they were attempting to get creative. I ended the call, without another word. But the definitive breaking point arrived in February. I received an envelope in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but I instantly recognized my mother's script. Inside was a 3-page letter. The first page was dedicated to expressions of regret. "We spoke in anger. You've always been the resilient one. We never truly realized how much we depended on you." The second page shifted to guilt. "Your father's health is declining. Natalie is entirely alone now. We're concerned about Ellie. She's struggling." And the third page, that was the hook. "We're selling the house, but we're underwater on the mortgage. We just need a little help to navigate this. Then we will never ask again. Please, Daniel, do it for your father. Do it for the family." I sat with the letter for a while, allowing myself to experience every emotion they intended for me to feel. The burden of responsibility, the sting of obligation, the aching impulse to mend what was broken. Then I folded the letter, rose, walked to the kitchen, and discarded it in the waste bin. The truth is, they weren't seeking assistance. They were seeking renewed access. They didn't desire my return to the family. They desired the version of me who never refused. The one who paid silently, sacrificed silently, suffered silently. But that version of me is no more. I am no longer their scapegoat. I am not their golden goose. I am not the adhesive holding a fractured household together. I am done. And the most terrifying realization for them? I am thriving without them. I secured a new profession, relocated to a different city, into a more spacious dwelling, a completely fresh start. I began volunteering on weekends, not because anyone required my presence, but because I genuinely desired to. I constructed a life where no one calls me at 11 at night to rectify a mistake they refuse to acknowledge, where I am not penalized for my autonomy, where kindness is not exploited as leverage. I do not regret aiding them, but I do regret the duration it took me to cease. Do you wish to comprehend what true tranquility feels like? It is not being surrounded by family. It is being liberated from individuals who only acknowledge you as family when they have a need. Update: many months later. I honestly didn't anticipate this post would garner such attention. Frankly, I just needed to express it, to place it somewhere. But I have read every comment. To those who affirmed my courage, stating they don't deserve me, thank you. I hadn't realized how deeply I needed to hear that until I did. And to the few who inquired, but what if they eventually change? I've posed that question to myself as well. It has been several months now. They did not change. After I severed ties, after the folder, after the screaming and the silence and the letters, I had thought, perhaps, just perhaps, someone would comprehend. That they would reflect. That they would offer an apology. They did not. They became quiet for a period. Then they grew strategic. Then they became desperate. Then they reverted to their ugly ways. But me, I became free. Since then, I moved to a new residence. Secured a job that doesn't consume my nights with worry. Initiated therapy. Genuine therapy. The kind where you stop attempting to fix everyone else and finally learn how to coexist with yourself. I now prepare my own meals. I sleep better. I spend more time outdoors. I no longer flinch when my phone vibrates. And yes, occasionally I contemplate Ellie, what she is being taught, what she will grow up believing is normal. But I also know this. I represented an example of someone who finally declared, enough. A few days ago, I received another letter, handwritten, from my mother. It contained 3 words. We're still family. No context, no apology, no evolution, just the same old manipulative overture. And for the first time, I felt nothing. No anger, no sorrow, just emptiness. I discarded it and prepared dinner. So, I return here because this space offered me a clarity I hadn't foreseen. Strangers perceived me more clearly than my own blood ever did. Therefore, here is what I wish to ask. Did I make the right decision? Cutting them off, shedding the burden, saying no, and truly meaning it. Was I too cold? Or was I finally just weary of being the sole individual holding everything together? I don't possess the answers. But I do know this. For the first time in my existence, I am not merely enduring. I am living. Thank you for listening.